going to have a look at this book, and it's called Parts of a Castle. And we've started our new topic all about castles and knights. And we're going to have a read of this book and learn about the different parts of a castle. Because just like your house has different parts, and it's got its door and it's got its windows and your kitchen and your living room and all those different parts of your house, castles have different parts as well. So let's get started. Defense against enemies. Castles were built for important and wealthy people to live in. As so many wealthy people lived in castles, there were usually lots of lovely things that people wanted to steal. Sometimes enemies wanted the whole castle. Because of this, it was very important that castles were protected against enemies. The moat. Do you see in the picture the water around the castle? That's the moat. Let's find out a bit about it. The moat was a deep trench or ditch that was dug all around the outside of the castle walls. Then it was filled with water. If people wanted to invade the castle, they would have trouble crossing the moat. The drawbridge. A drawbridge was used as a way to prevent or allow people in and out of the castle. It led from the castle gateway over the moat to the other side. The impressive thing about a drawbridge that it could be raised up so that invaders could not cross the moat or easily get into the castle. The bailey. Now you might have heard of a moat and you might have heard of a drawbridge, but you might not have heard of the bailey. The bailey was an inner courtyard in the middle of the castle. It was a large piece of open ground. The bailey often had different types of castle buildings on it, like the kitchens, the chapel or the church, the barracks, stables, workshops, forges, stores and halls. Arrow loops. Arrow loops or slits were used to defend the castle from invaders. These narrow slits were cut into the stone walls and used to shoot arrows through. The flying arrows would come as a big surprise to the invaders down below. I wonder if you've ever been to a castle. Maybe you've been to Carrickfergus Castle. You might have seen arrow loops or arrow slits cut into the wall. You can have a look at them in that picture below as well. Battlements. Now this is a big important word that we will talk about a lot during our castles and knights topic. So remember this word, battlements. Battlements were the square-shaped part of the walls around the top of the castle. They were useful for spying across the fields to check no one was coming to attack the castle. They were also useful for soldiers firing arrows through the gaps, as they offered protection from arrows coming from the enemy. Why do you think they were good for offering protection from arrows coming from the enemy? What do you think the people maybe did? I think maybe the people inside the castle might have stood behind the bit of the battlement that sticks up, and that would have protected them, and they could reach round and fire the arrows through the gaps. The Barbican. The Barbican was a section of wall which jutted out around the gateway. Its main job was to add strength to the gatehouse. And if you've been at Carrickfergus Castle, you would have seen a Barbican because Carrickfergus Castle has one of these at its front gate. The Portcullis. The portcullis was also an important feature for defence. It was a very heavy gate made of metal and very strong wood. It had jagged teeth at the bottom. It lifted vertically, that means it goes straight up, but could also be dropped very quickly to stop people getting in or easily breaking their way in through the gateway. The tower. The tower was a circular or square building which was used for a lookout and for defence. It made the castle more stable and could even put off attackers trying to invade the castle. And can you see in that tower, can you point to the arrow lip or the arrow slit? Can you point to the battlements? Well done, you two. The turrets. The castle turrets rested on the main towers and were used to see far across the land to warn them when enemies were coming. Small slit-like windows allowed anyone inside to see out and shoot arrows at their enemies, but protected those inside from arrows being shot back. These are like our arrow lips, aren't they? The keep. The keep is usually found at the heart of a castle. It was a tower built within a castle which was used as a place to live as a last resort during a battle. So if the battle was getting really bad and the enemies were coming and they'd got through over your moat, in through the drawbridge, past your portcullis, they'd run across the bailey, the keep was the place where you would go to keep you the safest. Now we've had a look at all the different parts of a castle, let's have a look at our big book activity for today. Okay, let's have a look at our big book activity. And today in your week 2 literacy pack, you will have a page that looks like this. And at the top it will say parts of a castle. Now I know you can't see that too well on the screen, but don't worry. Now, what we need to do today is we need to match the names of all these parts of the castle to the right box. And you can just about see the boxes there in the camera. And there are arrows or lines going to different parts of the castle. And we need to try to remember from our big book what each of these parts are called. Now there are lots of new words for us today. There are lots of really big words for us today, and you might need a little bit of help with this, and that's more than okay. You can use the video, you can pause it as we are doing this together, or you can get someone at home to help you. That's more than okay. Okay? So let's have a look. I'm going to set this back up here. I think it's a little bit easier to see when it's up there. There we go. We don't want to get the reflection from outside on it because then you can't see any of the words and that would be a disaster. So let's have a look. We're going to read our words first of all and see if we can remember what they are. So we've got a bailey, a barbican, the portcullis, the drawbridge, the tower, the arrow lips, the moat, and the battlements. Brilliant. I wonder, can you remember what any of those things are? Can you remember what the moat is? It's the big bit of water, isn't it, that goes all round the outside of the castle. Now, if you've got your book there, you can point to where the moat is. This is the label for the moat. You can pause your video if you want to, and you can write the word moat into this box. Okay, once you have done that, let's see what else we can figure out. I'm going to give the moat a little tick because I know we have done that one now and we don't need to come back to it. What about the tower? Can you point to the tower on your page? It's here, isn't it? And if you follow the arrow away from the tower, this is the box where we're going to write the word tower. You can pause the video and write in the word tower now if you want to. And now I'll give tower a little tick. Let's see what else we can figure out. What about the drawbridge? Where would the drawbridge be? Remember, it's got the word bridge in it. That means it must go over water. Can you point to the drawbridge? Well done. This is the drawbridge. It goes over the moat, doesn't it? And they can let the drawbridge down to let people across, or bring it back up so that people can't get across the moat. And this is our box for the word drawbridge. So I'm going to point to it here, move my arm out of the way, and you can pause your video if you want to write in the word drawbridge. And I'll give drawbridge a little tick, because we've got that one done. Okay, now let's go for a trickier one. What was the bailey? Now that was probably a new word for us. What was the bailey? Can you remember? The bailey was the part in the middle of the castle, wasn't it? Where there was maybe a lot of space, there weren't any buildings, and different things would have happened there. And here's our arrow for the bailey. And in there is where you will write the word bailey. I'll give bailey a little tick. Let's see, what will we do next? What about our arrow loops? They can also be called arrow slits, remember? What were they used for? They were used to shoot out arrows, weren't they? Yeah. And here we have, in our tower, we have some arrow loops. Follow our line out. Here's our box for arrow loops. You can write it in now. And I will give arrow loops a little tick. So we're nearly there. We've only got 3 left. So let's have a look at, the Barbican, because it's the one that keeps getting the light shone on it. So let's get rid of that one. So the Barbican, can you remember what that was? This is another really tricky one. The Barbican's the bit at the front of the castle, and it's got really thick stone walls to keep the entrance of the castle really safe. And remember, I said that Carrickfergus Castle has a Barbican. So let's see, this box here is pointing to the Barbican. So at this box down here, you're going to write in the word Barbican. And I'll give Barbican a tick, 2 left. Let's do our Portcullis. Can we remember where that is? We've only got 2 boxes left, remember? Super. Our Portcullis is like a big gate, remember, it comes straight down. They can lift it or lower it really quickly. So the word Portcullis goes in here. You can do that now. And I'll give it a tick. And we've only 1 word left, which is battlements. And you should only have 1 box left, hopefully. So here are our battlements. Remember, they're the bits that go like this along the top of the castle, and people can stand behind them to protect them or shoot out the wee low bits. And here's our box for battlements. And let's give that one a tick as well so it doesn't feel left out. And that is our big book activity all done. Great job, everybody. And you did a super job remembering all those names. Well done.